Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2023. I am Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com. It is August the 5th. It is Saturday. This is the 8th special edition of the Terrible Podcast for training camp this year. Obviously, we did not have an episode on Friday night following the Friday Night Lights practice. The team was back out at Saint Vincent College in Latrobe on Saturday for their 9th practice of training camp there. We're starting to get to the end of this and back once again we're going to recap the last 2 days in one episode, so it might run a little bit longer than normal, but the great Alex Kozora back with me. Alex, happy Saturday night.
Happy Saturday night, Dave, and yesterday, happy Friday night. Friday Night Lights were back. Record crowd, almost 14,000 people there. Jam-packed crowd today, Saturday at Saint Vincent College. I got to say, and maybe I'm a little bit prisoner of the moment, but I think the crowd this year has been as large as I can ever remember it during a training camp. I mean, I think the support from Steelers Nation, the excitement, the buzz in the air has been at its peak for quite some time. And so a really good crowd and some good football too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as you mentioned ahead of time, you had the rain out last year and then the COVID and all like that. So that's really the first time in several years now that the fans have been able to get out to Latrobe Memorial Stadium and take in the great Friday Night Lights. And it did. I mean, you look at the numbers they've reported and just, the videos that came in and looks like it was quite an experience. And the fireworks looked like they were spectacular afterwards as well there. So before we go any further, how about a shout out to our buddy Len Testa and the fine folks over at Touring Plans. Alex?
Yeah, definitely. Len Testa, Touring Plans, been a long time training camp sponsor of our Steelers Depot training camp coverage. And so they've been a great friend to us. If you're looking to book your trip to Disney, as I'm sure people will start to think about here in the Pittsburgh area, as December comes, winter comes, you want to start booking this thing in advance. You want to go to touringplans.com to plan out your trip and figure out the best way to save some money and maximize your experience to Disney. So if you want customized touring plans, visiting Disney special rides, tips for that, honest restaurant reviews, how to save on tickets, the best hotel rooms to ask for, and so much more, go to touringplans.com. And again, we thank them and Len Testa for the support of our Steelers Depot training camp coverage.
All right, no transactions to talk about, but you want to wrap up kind of two practices worth of health report where this team stands right now in kind of one little segment there?
Yeah, I really just talk about what happened today, and that kind of just intertwines with what happened yesterday as well. So not practicing for Pittsburgh today, Keanu Neal, John Lovett, who's missed more practices than he's actually practiced in, which is I think it's a lower body with Lovett. Don't know that for sure, but it appears that way. Wide receiver Jamarcus Bradley, don't know what's up with him. DeMarvin Leal with the left ankle. He seems very close to a return. Would not be surprised if he was back in action tomorrow or by Tuesday after the off day at the latest. Pittsburgh getting healthier at safety. Micah Fitzpatrick, not a health issue, but a personal issue. He was back in practice today. He went to individual and 7-on-7, did not participate in team, but Mike Tomlin saying after he's going to ramp up their full pretty soon. DeMonte Casey was in pads today. He did not participate in team. Believe he was in individual sessions, but he's working his way back. Keanu Benton hurt his right wrist in Friday Night Lights. He had kind of a brace of some sort on that arm today, but he practiced in full and had a good day. And Nick Herbig, I think actually both Herbigs were injured in practice today. Is that correct, Dave?
Yeah, I had to disseminate which one had what ailment there. One had a hip flexor and the other one had hand, thumb. Let me see if I can find the post on this real quick. Tomlin said a few injury updates. Nick Herbig had a hip flexor that's being evaluated. Nate Herbig had a hand thumb that's being evaluated. We had a couple of guys have bumps and bruises occur in practice, was able to come back. That one, Joey Porter Jr., he named, had an ankle, got retaped, went back in, things of that nature. He was asked, as you mentioned about Minka Fitzpatrick, he's ramping it back up and probably going to be back full sooner rather than later. It doesn't sound like who's the other one? Casey is as close, though. I think Mike Tomlin was asked about him specifically, and it sounds like it might be a little while before Casey is full.
Okay, yeah, but he's making progress, trending in the right direction, and so the safety group is getting healthier, and I suppose that's why this team has not made any additions despite working out several safeties, I believe, on Thursday. So right now, things, I think health-wise for this long stretch of training camp, Pittsburgh's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I think so too. How about knock on some wood with me there after saying that? Okay, let's get into some positional groups. And once again, we're going to try to cover a lot in this podcast because we're covering two practices here. We're going to get Alex's thoughts on the position groups as we go, kind of combine days here. And let's start with the elephant in the room, or the fullback in the room, if you will. You knew I was going to start with that. So let's start with the running backs / fullbacks, and we'll try to limit the discussion on this because as best we can, and some of it's going to carry over probably into the Monday podcast. But bring us up to speed on the developments there.
I should also say really quickly, not injury related, but returning to practice today, Mike Tomlin. He was not at Friday's practice. He was in Canton for the Rondé Barber Hall of Fame jacket, whatever you want to call it, dinner, and came back today. But yeah, when it comes to the running back position, it's running back / Kendrick Greens. That is who is in that room today. Kendrick Green getting work as a fullback H-back beginning in Friday's practice. Absolutely leveled Toby Ndukwe, the outside linebacker, on one rep, and then caught a pass the next, ran over Ndukwe as well for about a 10-yard gain in the right flat today. Similar story, pulling across run blocks and had a great catch and run off a boot right flat in the team period. Lowered the shoulder into Tanner Muse, spun off of him, stayed on his feet, and got about, 10, 12, 15 or so yards. And so Kendrick Green, he's now a fan favorite. It's a full turn for him. It's been really fun to watch, and he legitimately has looked good in that role.
All right, and as you mentioned, got a little bit more work during the Saturday practice, kind of in that role. It's going to be interesting to see if any of that spills over into maybe this first preseason game. I think Kendrick's doing his best to kind of keep that close to the vest, but you look at a couple of these interviews, I don't think he's doing a good job at that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a snap or two in this first preseason game with Kendrick at fullback. Look, you and I talked back in May, right? When Vince Williams, went on Twitter and said, who'd make a good fullback? Kendrick Green. Well, you go back to 2021, as we mentioned in that May segment. I thought, partially through his rookie season, because of his size, because of his straight line ability and physicality, I put out on Twitter at that time, man, who'd make a good fullback? Kendrick Green. Now, we're now it's happening. Mike Tomlin said after practice that that's something that they kind of played with last season in preparation for Ricard and the Ravens. So that makes a little sense there overall. And we've talked about Kendrick Green's spot and how the things probably got to break his way in certain areas for him to make this 53-man roster. Showing your position flexibility certainly won't hurt your cause within that. So we'll leave it at this. We'll talk more about it on Monday, but it is what it is at this point. He is getting a little bit of work at fullback. Kudos to him for doing that and essentially excelling in that role. And we'll see if it remains a talking point going forward. And more importantly, we'll see if it ends up with him doing enough to get a roster spot here.
Yeah, my quick thoughts, and as you said, we can expand on this Monday, is I don't know where this thing goes long-term. It's still going to be a tough path to make for Kendrick Green, and we're talking about a really kind of niche-specific role, but it's working, it's going well, and there's every reason for Pittsburgh to keep using it until it's not going well this summer and see what happens. So where this thing ends for week one, I don't know, but it's been 2 successful trial runs yesterday and today on Saturday, so keep it rolling and see where this thing ends up.
Let's just leave it. It's a pleasant yet on our end, probably not, or at least to me, not too terribly surprising development, but we'll just have to, I don't know where it's going either at this point. So we'll leave it at that. What about the other running backs? I think they had some backers today, right?
They did normally do them on the Friday Night Lights, but maybe with Mike Tomlin not being there, they wanted to save it until today. I thought Najee Harris struggled a lot more than I thought that he would, and he had 3 straight reps against Quan Alexander, and I have Alexander winning all 3 of them, including one bull rush that knocked Harris to the ground, and Harris is not a small man. And so I thought I was hoping for more from Najee Harris in that situation. I think his camp overall has been probably quiet. I don't want to say it's been terrible, although today was, not a practice probably for him to write home about. And sometimes, how well is it blocked, and they're not really tackling Najee in the team period. So you really can't get a full feel for him because he's not exactly going probably full speed in some of these moments. But I was hoping for a bit more from Harris this summer.
Is it technique, the ducking of the head, or how far away were you? Did you pick up on anything with him? Because obviously we talked, previously about him kind of, lowering his head a little bit.
On the bull rush, to me, and I see it through binoculars, and so I have a pretty good view of it. I'm not looking just from the naked eye. His posture seemed good. There's probably some technical stuff when you get run over like that. There may be some sort of issue with your hands or your feet too wide. I don't know. One of the following reps, he did duck his head, and Alexander beat him with, I think, a swim or a swipe to the edge. And so that was a moment where there's definitely some obvious technique issues with Harris there. I know Jaylen Warren will be this team's 3rd down back this year, and Harris, and they can still be a solid pass protector. Again, I'm just saying in a vacuum, and today, Harris did not look up to par there in that backs on backers drill.
All right. Warren, on the other hand, did, right?
Well, it was a tough start because he got steamrolled by Landon Roberts, but he bounced back with some sessions, a rematch later in backs on backers, and had a couple of really good reps, and then probably took it a little too far by taking Roberts to the ground and flexing on him, literally kind of stepping over him and kind of flexing both arms out at him. So Warren's competitive. He's had a fine camp overall, probably better than Najee, I would say. Even Anthony McFarland. I thought McFarland had some good reps and backs on backers, and we really got to look at him beyond being a runner. Can he do more than just that? He's caught the ball extremely well, although I think he had his first drop of camp in the Friday night practice. But I thought he held his own against Mark Robinson in backs on backers today.
All right, and look, those are the only 3 right now really worth talking about, right? Those 3 running backs.
Sure. I mean, there's Darius Higgins and Greg Bell. Love it not practicing the last 2 days, but Higgins and Bell have been, Bell's got a bit of juice to him, and Higgins a bit of power, kind of a bowling ball rocked up dude. But McFarland, there's really nobody threatening his spot right now.
All right, what's the best thing you saw out of the running back group, not including the Kendrick Green stuff these last 2 nights? Let's do that before we move on to the next group.
That's a very specific best thing from the running back group. I don't know if there's, to watch Warren kind of bounce back, because in that back on backer situation, you're going to take your lumps, and Roberts is a ferocious bull rusher that's had a lot of success this camp. And so to see a guy battle the fearlessness, the competitiveness, the pissed offness, if that's a thing, of Jaylen Warren to want to rebound and finish out that drill strong, that just kind of sums up who Jaylen Warren is.
You're starting to make up words like I like to make up words.
We're late in camp.
I'm rubbing off on you wrong when it comes to your grammar and all like that. Shame on me. All right, let's go to quarterbacks next. And on the heels of you not being overly impressed with Pickett coming out of the practice the last time we talked on Thursday, Kenny's put together a couple of nice practices now, right?
He has. I would say the Friday night practice was his best practice by far, even better than today's, though today's I thought was just fine. The actual stats, and if you hate camp stats, close your ears because people get mad at that sometimes, but I like to put these things in the context. If I can pull up the stats I tweeted this morning from Kenny on Friday night, he went 11 to 12 for 108 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions, both touchdowns in 7 shots. And it was a really good practice, but it was not just him putting the ball in the end zone. To be fair, on Friday, some of the 7 shots plays had open receivers, Allen Robinson, Deontay Johnson, but still Pickett found them and threw the football. But there was a downfield throw right sideline to Deontay Johnson, throwing it over the underneath defenders, perfectly placed. I thought Pickett just was, firing the ball downfield over the middle. Friday hitting Johnson on a dig route for 19 yards. Today hitting back shoulder throws to Allen Robinson, to Deontay Johnson. I think Pickett's had 2 strong days of camp.
All right. Then if people listening, he had a very nice interview on Sirius XM NFL radio. I think it was pre-recorded and aired during the Friday Night Lights practice, and we wrote about and all. And he said one of the biggest things that he worked on and thinks he's improved on this offseason was his footwork, and more specifically in kind of him going through his progressions and all. So that sounds like one of the things that he's feels like he's worked on specifically this offseason, and feels like he's made strides in on top of it. What about the rest of the quarterbacks, Alex?
Probably fewer notes there overall. I think Mason Rudolph will kind of force some passes and maybe stick on that first read a bit. There was an instance today, back-to-back throws to Akeem Butler, and I thought Luke Barku had good coverage on both of them, and both were incomplete. And maybe that's Rudolph trying to allow Butler to make a play because he has the size, but probably some times where he could have gone elsewhere overall. Trubisky did technically throw a pick today on a seam ball to Connor Hayward that Mark Robinson wrestled away. It was a good throw, but Robinson did a nice job to come away with it, at least according to the side judge, the ref that ruled it an interception there. No reps of Tanner Morgan. I thought maybe he would get once a week. He would get a couple snaps, maybe tomorrow with kind of this long grind of practice. I wouldn't be shocked by that. We'll just have to wait and see. So less overall on Trubisky and Rudolph, although to be honest, I'm probably searching a little bit less for those guys because their roles are pretty established and we kind of know who those guys are.
All right, tight ends now.
What do I have here? Darnell Washington and backs on backers did not have the success against TJ Watt that he had on Tuesday, the first time they did it, but I thought, Washington had good reps against Nick Herbig and also against David Perales, really controlled David Perales. And so that was good to see overall. I didn't really watch it because I was watching a different drill on Friday, but I had heard and saw a clip or two of Washington looking good in some of those 1v1 coverage drills. And so I think his play has been on the rise, and Mike Tomlin praised him for stacking some good days.
Yeah, he did. And it's good to see him do that here at this point. Anything to pass along on Freiermuth or Zach Gentry or even Connor Hayward got a carry or something?
He did. His second one at camp. It was a good hole created, 7-yard gain before Marjorie Harper knocked him down. I think Zach Gentry's had a couple of good practices. He ended Friday night, the last play of practice from, I think it was Trubisky or Rudolph. It was one of the two. Nice toe-tapping catch in the back of the end zone for a touchdown from 5 or so yards out. So I would say Zach Gentry, he looked very good in backs on backers today. He won his reps, I think, overall pretty convincingly. I want to say he went against Herbig. Let me see who I had him going against, if I can find the right day here. Nick Herbig, a couple of good reps. So I think the tight ends overall have held their own.
Are they putting Freiermuth in those drills or no?
He's only gone against Alex Highsmith, but he did have 1 rep in backs on backers today. I thought Highsmith had a club that kind of knocked Freiermuth back. I would say Highsmith overall won the rep. So Freiermuth has only gone against Highsmith, and Highsmith overall has won those battles.
All right, let's dive into the last 2 practices worth of offensive line stuff that you've seen.
Yeah, I'm trying to collect my thoughts here. Obviously, it's kind of dominated by the Kendrick Green conversation. From there, we're seeing some flipping and some more mixing and matching. Spencer Anderson playing left tackle, Dylan Cook playing right tackle. I thought that Cook had a good Friday practice, whether that was in he had they pulled the backside tackle several times this camp. These dart schemes where the backside tackle wraps around, and Cook had a good block later in the team period on Friday that sprung. I believe it was Greg Bell for a 10 or so yard gain. I thought in some of the 1v1 situations, Cook looked good. He's got some size. He's got some good feet, kind of that quarterback background. He was a quarterback in college before making the unusual transition to offensive tackle. So that may be a practice squad candidate because there's not really anybody else to compete for that practice squad spot right now. Kevin Dotson has been playing more right guard as well. And so they're getting him. I've only been able to evaluate him in some of the 1v1 situations. It's been a mixed bag. I think it's just inconsistent. It's kind of the book on Dotson with a couple of quality reps, but some where he loses early. The technique's not always there. I don't know if the body language is always the best with Kevin Dotson. It's not been bad. It's just been probably the same old Kevin Dotson of some good reps and some poor reps, and you never know what you're going to get with the guy.
Sayamalu as advertised?
Yeah, he had a great play on Friday on a screen pass. Can Pittsburgh actually run some screens this year? Maybe with Isaac Seumalo downfield on a screen to Freiermuth, middle screen left side. And
run it correctly.
Run it correctly. Yeah, they run him well is a different story for sure. But Seumalo got on Cam Hayward and had a hand on him for 10 yards downfield on a, I think, 22-yard gain to Freiermuth. And so you see him anchor in some of these, bull rush situations. Him and Cam Hayward have had some good battles. I think it might be fun for Hayward to go against a left guard who's a real top end guy. Pittsburgh's not had that top end left guard for a little bit now. And you bring in somebody like, say, Malu. It's kind of, Mike Tomlin calls them dance partners. I think that's a really good dance partner for Cam Hayward.
How's the rotation going at LT1?
It's still mostly been Dan Moore Jr. I don't know how many first team reps that Broderick Jones has gotten the last two practices. Chukwuma Okorafor has been practicing, basically in full. I did get to watch Broderick Jones, though, today kind of work the ladder of O-line, D-line. He began against Toby and Dukeway and handled him pretty easily on 2 reps. Then went against Marcus Golden, and Golden had a good rep. Haven't talked about him much. It's been, to me, a pretty quiet camp, but he ripped through Broderick Jones and won the rep. And then Broderick Jones went against Cam Hayward, and I was super excited for that rep. On the first one, Hayward began with his bull rush to a long arm that really uprooted and uprighted Broderick Jones and knocked him down, pushed him back. He kind of lost his balance. They went again. Hayward did not go power. He went finesse, beat him to the inside. So I think it was 2 pretty clear wins for Hayward on Jones, but I like Jones getting that chance. This is what grown man strength feels like, Broderick Jones. And so that was probably a good opportunity for him to go against a top end elite level guy just to get a feel for what that's like.
All right. We haven't talked much about Ryan McCollum. Any updates on him? He's still running, I guess at this point, what, 3rd or 4th string center now, right?
Yeah, he's flipped between some 3rd string center and playing some, I think, between some 2nd and 3rd team guard as well. Whenever they have Herbig at center, they'll have McCollum at guard. For example, if Herbig's with the 2s. McCollum has been not what I thought he would be. Yeah, I think his technique's a little sloppy. He kind of gets the job done, but he's leaning. He's not always square. Again, this is me watching more of the 1v1s than me being able to see it well in some of the team period action. So there's a limited scope of which I'm watching through, but it's not a guy that's screaming to me he's going to be the backup center. I'm still assuming he's okay with the thumb injury, trending pretty heavily towards Nate Herbig. Nate Herbig. I was looking Nick Herbig on my screen here. Nate Herbig being the backup center.
Over or under 2.5 positions, different positions on the line that Spencer Anderson will play in the preseason opener?
That's a good question.
That's a good over-under, right?
It is a good over-under.
Because you said he's moved around quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everywhere but center at this point now, right?
At this point, although the left tackle snaps have only come the last 2 days, and he only has gotten, from what I can recall, 1 day at guard, and that was this past Sunday, where he played left guard and right guard when they were really running short in terms of bodies along the offensive line. So over under 2.5. I'll take the over, but I don't know how many snaps it's going to be. I think it's going to be a lot of right tackle, some left tackle, and they probably find a way to get him a look at guard, but I don't know if it's going to be a bunch of snaps.
Okay. All right. Anything else on offensive line before we move over to the defensive side of the ball?
No, I think it wraps up pretty well. They've been a healthy group. They've only had 14 of them. Once they released Jared Williams, they've just kind of run with the 14 that they've had. And those guys have been available and working. There really have been, again, knock on wood, people will yell at me now, no injuries along the offensive line. So they've been a group that's been able to get those reps. And that's still important for a bunch of young guys and guys fighting for spots and roles to be out there working. And that's really important for that group.
All right. How about defensive line update? You've already talked a little bit about Cameron Hayward and I think how about the rookie? How about Keanu Benton? What you got eyes on him last couple days?
Today, especially. And I wasn't sure if Benton was even going to practice with that right wrist injury. And he's got a brace of some sort on it, like I mentioned earlier, but he had a really good day today, whether that was blowing up. I don't know exactly how he got past, but he blew up McFarland in team period and hit him hard for a tackle for a loss. And I think he even ripped James Daniels in the 1v1 situation. There were a couple of good reps today from Keanu Benton. Armin Watts felt active today. He had a couple of run defenses. He looked good in 1v1, almost picked off a pass on a kind of check down in the right flat from Pickett to Harris that Watts could not catch, but tipped it and at least made the defensive stop on it. And then Manny Jones had a couple reps. He's an athlete. He's kind of a tweener.
We haven't talked about him much either, have we?
No, we haven't.
Almost forgot he's on the roster. Claimed him off waivers from the Cardinals after Rennell Wren went down.
Yeah, I saw some pass rush juice from him. Now, it was at least one of the reps I saw was against Bill Dunkel, who is not a good pass protector. I've mentioned that a time or two, but saw something from him. And Isaiah Lattimore continues to play stand-up left outside linebacker, true outside linebacker reps. It's not just some sort of weird front or anything like that.
That's not a good development for him, though, right? I mean,
I think they just want to try things. They want to try Kendrick Green at fullback. They just want to see how guys look. And if it doesn't work, it's August and you can scrap it. But I think they just want to see how these guys might function.
All right. Fehoko?
He's been fine. He had some good battles with Kendrick Green. Green's issue, I know the focus is on the fullback, which is fun, no doubt about it. But he's got the problem of any of these finesse moves, these quick, rips and swims and all that off the line. Green just struggles to mirror. He has a hard time, from what I can tell, bringing his feet. And he wants to punch and lean, and he gets beat, on the edge as well. Down the middle, there's still some problems, but he's probably a little bit more equipped to handle that. When guys really kind of work the corners on him, inside, outside is where he really struggles. And I saw Fehoko beat him pretty cleanly on one such rep today, where Green looked better against some of the bull rushes and he can hop step and stall out some of those moves. And so Green's real problem is he's only been playing center, really can't play guard. I mean, he has, but it's not looking good there. And then B, just dealing with some of that quickness. It's not been his forte.
All right. Outside linebacker and back to Nick Herbig. And I understand he got to go against Darnell Washington.
Yeah, let me go through my notes here and I'll just talk out the notes here probably for you guys better than me trying to recall it if I can find it here after going against LaRaven Clark. Let's see what I have here. I'm all over the place here in my notes. Nick Herbig on Darnell Washington. You know what? I'm having a hard time finding it right now, but there were some good reps. I thought Herbig kind of beat Washington maybe late once or twice. I would say overall Washington got the better of Nick Herbig. I think I'm on the wrong day, which is probably the reason why I'm struggling to find that. Let's see if I can find nice sealed by Darnell Washington on Herbig, who tried the cross chop. Herbig did use a push pull on Washington and got past him. That was a Herbig win. They went for the tiebreaker. I had Washington sealing Herbig upfield to take 2 of 3 in the series. Herbig does love that cross chop. I'm not a fan of it personally, and I know I'm 5'7" Alex Kozora on a good day talking about what pass rush moves these guys should and should not use. I have not found too many players to be successful with a cross chop. I hate guys that leave both their feet to pull off that type of move. Herbig has used it a lot. To me, it's not been terribly effective. I think he's better using basically anything else in his arsenal.
And he's much, the speed is his main asset. His get off and his speed is his main asset, right?
It is. And then he can try to win inside when he can threaten these tackles to the edge. And then he can go inside on swims and spins and all those types of moves. And I thought on Friday he had a good run tackle for loss in the run session on McFarland. I think it was for a loss there. So, I know Herbig, we know he's an athlete. We know he can rush the passer. Can you set the edge? I'm still finding out if he can set the edge, but he has made some plays in run session.
All right, let's get that hip flexor of his bit better and make sure we see him in that first preseason game, right?
Yeah, I want to make sure he's getting a lot of time. It looked minor. I mean, he stood on the sidelines, throughout the rest of practice. There was no trainer near him, so it may cost him, maybe take tomorrow off, get rested for Monday, and then be out there Tuesday. But we'll keep you posted.
Toby having a rough go of it.
Poor Toby. He's just been getting crushed by Kendrick Green. They're still picking his jersey off the grass in Latrobe High School there. He's had a couple of reps and he's coachable, but he's been pushed around quite a bit, whether it was Rodney Williams pancaking him earlier this week and Kendrick Green just taking his lunch here on back-to-back plays. Yesterday, I don't know if it happened today. I don't know who Kendrick Green crunched today. He got somebody pretty good. I don't know if it was Toby or not. Elise and Duquay saw some extra reps with Herbig missing the latter half of practice.
All right, Paralysis update. Any of that last 2 nights or last 2 days?
Yeah, to me, when the pads have come on, Paralysis has been pretty quiet. There were a couple of plays there early. I don't think he's going to be the undrafted sleeper. I thought that he would, but we'll see what happens when they step inside a stadium, which is less than a week from now. So it's going to come up here pretty quickly. Yeah. So, you want to see how these guys do inside stadiums. That's probably the bigger litmus test, and it's like the final. You can do your homework and take the quiz, but the games are the final exam, and that carries the most amount of weight.
Or you stay out in the car and burn the reefer. Like,
is that okay? We had two different approaches
and skip the test.
Yeah, I don't know how that works in a practice. I don't know what the analogy is there.
It's not good.
Not good.
I wouldn't advise doing it.
Fair.
Inside linebacker room, Mike Tomlin had some positive things about Quan Alexander after practice today. Overall, these last two practices, what has stood out at the top of the inside linebacker depth chart?
It's been Alexander, and not that Mike Tomlin needs my validation, but I agree with everything Mike Tomlin said. The energy, the intensity, this guy fills the hole with authority, and he just loves to hit, and he's making plays. He's been good in run session. Cole Holcomb as well has made plays, had a tackle for loss or a tag for loss because they weren't tackling Najee in run session today. I think Holcomb has been really well-rounded in terms of whether it's backs on backers, coverage, run defense, just being available, being out there every single day, being early to work. I think it's been a really strong camp for Cole Holcomb.
And Landon Roberts is, as advertised, downhill thumper, right?
With Roberts, yeah, he's been that type of guy. You've seen that in backs on backers. He's certainly, his reputation is accurate. He's a downhill hitter, very similar to Mark Robinson.
Is he losing any reps along the way? Because he was dinged up a little bit, and I think still kind of working through whatever he's. I think you said he's full though. Is Quan getting first team stuff or?
Quan has not. It's interesting. On Friday, Roberts practiced in full, but Mark Robinson was working ahead of him, and then today it was Roberts starting over Mark Robinson. So I don't really, I can't figure out if they like Mark Robinson or if they don't, or what their feeling is towards him. Alexander has generally been more second team, rotating in. It's been a lot of him and Chappelle Russell playing next to each other. It's frankly kind of been, and it's hard to say for sure, these things mix and match, but first team, inside linebacker, almost that trio. Remember last year they had Jack and Spillane and Bush all kind of rotating in. This year, it's been Holcomb has basically almost always been the guy with a couple of exceptions, but Holcomb and then either Roberts and Robinson, and then the other one rotates in with first team reps, and then kind of second team of Alexander and Russell, and then third team of Kwiatkowski and Tanner Muse.
You know what? I went out of order with our position groups tonight because I wanted to get to running backs first. We forgot to talk about the wide receivers on offense.
Ooh, no, that's my mistake, and there's certainly some things to talk about. I talked about with Kenny Pickett that I thought his best practice was Friday. I thought you could say the same for Calvin Austin. And I viewed him as somebody that's been up and down throughout camp and also just kind of gone quiet at times. But I thought the best play that he's made so far of camp, we've seen his speed and he's burned Porter and he's had some big wins like that. We know he can run fast, run by guys. But in that team period on Friday, there was a deep ball from Mitch Trubisky, maybe slightly underthrown. Austin, though, was deep downfield, had a step on his defender, and Austin kind of comes back for the football, deals with some traffic from Trenton Thompson trying to get back in phase and makes I don't want to say it was so contested where Thompson really found the football. He didn't, but Austin had to really kind of work for the football. It wasn't thrown right in his wheelhouse, and made the catch for, I think it was 45 yards, whatever I wrote down there. And that was a really good play by him. He made a contested grab in 7 shots on a slant, where earlier this week there was a slant that got knocked away by Chris Wilcox. And so I really want to see Austin win contested. I know he's fast. The speed's still there. He can run by guys. Can you win kind of messy? And I saw that from him on Friday.
There's no really need to talk about Deontay or Pickens. I mean, Pickens just, it seems like every day he's showing up in my feed, he had a great catch, kind of reminiscent of one, was it against the Saints or the Ravens last year, where he was really stretched out, had to contort his body and extend and make one. I think he had one of those similar in practice today. I mean, look, those guys can obviously make the roster and expecting big things out of him. Where are you now? You've seen enough of Allen Robinson at this point. What's your analysis on him?
Yeah, he's what Pittsburgh needs. He's going to make the tough catches over the middle. He's going to primarily play in the slot, but he's flexible. He'll play on the outside as well. Had a good back shoulder grab today. He's a veteran. He's a teacher. Even with the defenders, we talk about Robinson in that wide receiver room. He's going to be good for Pickens. He's going to be good for Austin, and he is. But I was watching him Friday after a 1v1 drill, and he's talking with Duke Dawson, the cornerback, about his release. And it was just a quick conversation, 60 seconds or so, but just at a quick moment there, I could see Robinson kind of chop his feet and talk about his release. I tweeted this out, and I really saw it Friday. While it's pretty clear Robinson is no longer the dynamic big play downfield receiver. His release package is still so good. It's probably the best. Well, him and Deontay have the best release packages of the Pittsburgh Steelers receiver group on this team. His ability to win off the line is really impressive, and that's going to be really effective on third down and especially in the red zone.
All right, and how much they're moving Austin around in the team sessions?
Yeah, I mean, he's, jetted across on jet motion a ton. It's been primarily slot. There's probably been some outside receiver reps. I think that happened maybe a bit more earlier in camp. Deontay missed some time earlier in camp, and so that probably gave some more chances for Calvin to play on the outside. But he's going to, primarily be in the slot and then get motioned around, all that kind of stuff.
All right, what about Gunner? What kind of camp's Gunner having?
It's maybe faded a bit, but I think overall he's been good. It's similar to last year, and the question for him is about just return work overall. So I don't have a whole lot new on Gunner. He had a drop on Friday, just one hit him right in the hands. It happens, but still got to make the play. Just to go back to Deontay, a couple of good practices for him. He's been more involved in the offense, and so I think he's looked good. I want to give him his credit, although we kind of know what he can do. And Cody White continues to be effective and consistent and solid. He's a very consistent guy. So very much, you know what you're expecting from him. No bad days, Cody White. Now, how good are the days? What's the ceiling is obviously, I think, fairly limited, but he's a guy that's going to hang around on this team because Pittsburgh knows what he's going to offer them.
All right. How about we go back to defense now? Shame on me. I apologize for getting out of order there. Cornerback.
What do I have here on the corner? So the Porter on Friday was solid, had a really good close. You could see that length. It was a play on a crosser to Boykin, in any time with a corner, outside leverage on an inside shallow cross, you're always going to be trailing. It's a tough position to be in. And for Porter to close and knock that ball away just shows the crazy 34-inch arms that he has. Plays that he can make other guys can't because they just simply don't have the length and the frame that he does. He did get, I didn't tweet this and because I didn't want to scare people and people get mad at me for trying to talk about an injury. Porter did seem to tweak his left ankle in the 1v1 session today, and he got taped, but he did not really miss any time. So I didn't note that because he wasn't missing any time, but he looked maybe a little bit hobbled and not 100% and maybe didn't have his best day because of it. Mondre Harper had a good breakup in Friday's practice. He's stacking some good days. And Luke Barku, have not talked about Luke Barku too much. I thought he kind of lost reps this week, but I believe he had a pick late in practice today. Forced those 2 incompletions on Hakeem Butler. And so good for Luke Barku, who was in my notes for the first time in a couple of days.
Who's been the most impressive slot the last 2 practices?
These guys just don't get, it's hard to evaluate them because they're defending these option routes. And so they're always kind of trailing and falling behind, and they've just continued to rotate first team slot corners. I think today it was Sullivan. I think Riley was second team. So I have not gotten a great feel. It may be one of those things for me personally where I kind of take it to the preseason and see how these guys look. To me, it's still kind of a mixed bag.
All right, James Pierre.
Yeah, Thursday was his best day. And what
about Levi? We don't talk a lot about Levi either.
Yeah, again, Levi's like a better version of Cody White, where he's a starter, caliber number 2 type of guy. Certainly going to make this team and play snaps, but he's just steady Eddie. There's no bad days for Levi Wallace. He's a consistent guy. He's had to face George Pickens a lot, and that's a tough challenge, obviously. But there was a good breakup on a slant route today where Wallace didn't touch the football, but helped impact that throw and force the incompletion. And so Wallace, a very steady guy. Overall, Pierre, less to note probably the last 2 days. I think it was Cody White that got him on a long pass. I accidentally had the wrong name. I apologize. I had Boykin on my Twitter account. It was Cody White that leapt over James Pierre deep down the left sideline today. That's the correct info is in my actual report there. But overall, Pierre's been good. And the more I've thought about it, the more I'm with you, Dave, with Trice going down, it's hard not to see Pierre make this team.
Yeah, special teams alone. I mean, he's and plus he does have, God forbid he's got experience on the outside there.
Yeah, and it's just enough of a resume and certainly some talent in special teams. And if he's not going to be that extra outside corner, then who's it going to be? Not really sure who that guy would end up being. So Pierre makes a lot of sense.
All right, those lines at safety remain on the short side.
Yeah, they do, because while Minka and Casey were in pads, they weren't working in team today. So again, ton of snaps for Kenny Robinson. Trey Norwood continues to make plays. I think it's been a really fun battle between Norwood and Robinson, 2 guys that have some similarities, some differences. Both can play the football. Robinson a bit bigger, a more impactful hitter, but Norwood I think has improved his tackling and his 1-2 in the moments that I've seen this year from him. Beyond that, Miles Killebrew has been, his normal self. Actually got a rep in backs on backers today. You don't see that one too often, but he's blitzed quite a bit from a safety spot. And that kind of, Trent Thompson's got some downhill ability. He'll come down and hit you. He's had a couple of run stops, so he's, practice squad at best, but I could see him with a good preseason hanging around on the Pittsburgh Steelers practice squad.
All right. How about some special teams? Austin got 5 balls in punting competition.
Yeah, I never know what to call it. I just call it the punt return challenge. I always describe it pretty poorly. Punt return
challenge. Da, 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 da.
I feel like that. But yeah, it was Calvin Austin. It was him and Gunner and Jordan Bird. How many, footballs can you I say catch it once, but they kick them. It's from the machine. I'm saying this very poorly right now. They kick them individually, and so you have to catch one, and then while you're holding one, catch the next. And so Austin got the 5, Olszewski only the 4, Bird the 4. The record I want to say is 7. I have that in my notes somewhere. I forget who has it. I believe multiple people have it. I want to say Tyler Vaughn's and maybe Gunner last year. I don't know for sure, but the record is 7. But Austin winning the day with 5.
Any punting to speak of the last couple of practices?
No, they have not punted at all the last couple of practices. They've done some sim punts where they have some return guys, but they're using the jugs machine, I guess you could say, to fire the football. So Mann and Harvin have been really inactive. They've done some kick return work and different aspects of special teams, but no punting since, I don't know, midweek or so.
All right, let's hope that continues. But you know what? Don't even carry a punter this year. Just go forward on 4th down, or let Kenny quick kick it or something like that.
Kendrick Green can do it. Why not? We'll try Kendrick Green as the punter.
We'll have to wait through the preseason to learn more about the punting situation. It feels like. Okay. Any other takeaways? Too many. You got the 7 shots detailed in both the reports, right?
I do. Offense won 4-3 on Friday, but I would say it was more convincing than that. And I bet you other people scored it 5-2 because Kenny, I think, snuck the ball over the pylon for a touchdown. Today, defense won 4-3 touchdowns on offense. Let me check here really briefly. I know it was Austin. McFarland had touchdowns, and who had the other one, just so people can know that. It was Austin, it was McFarland, and Deontay Johnson with a nice catch over Landon Roberts in the left flat.
Do you have it? Did you learn anything? Give me 1 or 2 little nuggets, things as we close this out that you think that you learned over the last couple of practices here.
Well, Kendrick Green's playing fullback.
Yeah.
I learned that. And I was probably more skeptical of that than you. I think you were probably more open to that. And more
I went back this morning and found that clip in May and saying it would not hurt my exact quote is, it would not hurt my feelings at all to learn that they worked Kendrick Green at fullback. And this was prior to OTAs. I said during OTAs, it would not hurt my feelings at all to learn Kendrick Green working at full. And once again, it's, look, he's listed at 6'4", but he ain't no 6'4". No,
he's 6'017". That was the official weight on him.
I mean, he's 6'2" on a good day, all decked out, maybe on his toes and all like that. But because of that lower center of gravity, and one of the things I said, back in May too, is that, if there was a positive takeaway from his rookie season, it was that he moves well in space and he has the physicality. You move him on a straight line. I mean, it's like Rosie Nix, when it comes to that. So, I wasn't stunned when the news came out, but give me another. We'll talk more about that on Monday. Give me another takeaway.
Just watching all the versatility of camp, and I know that's not brand new, and I think versatility across the league has been heightened over the years. But whether it's Green or McFarland all over the place, or Latimer playing stand-up outside linebacker, or all the DBs doing their moving and shaking, really just trying some different stuff and really heightening the level of versatility this training camp. And so just to see those guys in different spots and how they look, I think is really interesting overall. Some other new things, I'd have to probably chew on that some more, but the versatility of camp, even probably more so this year, stuck out to me.
All right, 9 practices in. Hydrate for me, Alex. Okay, you're doing great. You got one more practice on Sunday, and then
I feel like I'm in the corner of the boxing ring right now, and I'm going, cut me, Mick, cut me.
Yeah, and one more practice on Sunday, then the team day off, and then you get what, Tuesday and Wednesday. I think's it then, right? Because
Thursday's the walkthrough.
closed.
It's closed. Yeah, and then game Friday.
And then so camp breaks next Thursday. So hang with me here. Keep it together. Get out there tomorrow, and you and I will talk Sunday night about what you observed out there at Saint Vincent College in Latrobe. And that will be our 9th, special edition of the podcast. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button, upper right navigational bar. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of the site, same method, upper right navigational bar. Hit the ad-free button there. So until Sunday night, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2023 with Dave and Alex.